Are you addicted to sugar and you don't even know it? Do you crave sugar and sweets? Do you sneak or hide sugary foods? Do you feel anxious or uneasy about the thought of not even having them? Do you have feelings of guilt after consuming sweets? Do you treat yourself with a sweet treat as a reward or to feel better? Well, you are likely addicted to sugar. And yes, it is an addiction. Hi, I'm Dr. Janine, and today we're going to look at the hidden secrets of sugar addiction. We will talk about why it is not treated the same as other addictions, yet it is just as harmful. We will look at sugar cravings and how to stop them. I will share with you tips to help to balance your sugar and your insulin levels, and other foods that you can eat to help you feel satiated and full. I will also share with you some great non-sugar substitutes. Hello, Norm.
Hello, Dr. Janine. I'm really excited about this show, by the way. I've been looking forward to this. I really enjoyed last week's show, of course, about magnesium deficiency. And now I realize how big of a problem sugar addiction is and how little we have heard about it, really. But we're going to be hearing more about it now. While you're watching, remember to like and subscribe and click that bell for future notifications, certainly. And remember, too, that you can share the video with your family and friends if there's a point or two or the whole show that you want to remind them of and show them. Make sure you do follow Dr. Janine on Instagram, which is at Dr. Janine, DoctorJanine, and on Facebook and all of social media, so you don't miss another show. Remember that Dr. Janine is online during the show, so if you have any questions or comments, be sure to leave them in the comments section below. Okay, sounds like we have a lot to cover. We better get right to it, but I do have my own personal thing I have to get off my chest here, honestly. You know, during the pandemic, my nutritional selections have not been the most healthy, and a lot of that has to do with sugar, because I find eating sugar sometimes makes me feel good. I just have to admit it. So this is of interest to me too. I want to find out why I keep going back to sugar. So I want to get started right away for sure. Let's do that. What exactly is it that causes sugar addiction?
Well, that's a great question, Norm, and your personal story. Thank you for sharing that, because I think you're not alone in the fact that over the last few months, since February, March, that people really have had difficulty with being home and eating more sugar, and it's all around, and baking and doing all of these things that maybe you didn't even realize that you had a sugar issue, and yet now you're looking down at your waist size.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, the COVID-19.
I'm not saying for you.
No, it's me.
In particular,
that's okay.
But I think everybody can relate to that, especially if sugar was one of the culprits. So we're going to talk about that in today's show. And there are many causes for sugar addiction, whether they are mental, they can be physical, and even spiritual, which we're going to talk about in just a moment. So first, let's talk a little bit about the history of sugar and how, sugar is such a prevalent, I would say, food group for a lot of people. It shouldn't be a food group, but it actually originated in Papua New Guinea, and this is interesting. Then, of course, it was in India and in China, and definitely the cultivation of the sugar cane grew there. Then when it got into Europe, which was, more for the rich and the nobles who loved to be able to have sugar in it, was like a delicacy. But then as the farming increased, what happened is that the price dropped, and now even the poor people had access to the sugar. So it's very interesting if we take a look at that. And then from Europe, of course, it came over to the West and was, situated in Brazil, was a large farming area for the sugar cane, and then into the West Indies, so Jamaica, of course, as well. So it's really interesting that, that transition happened, which was at one time just for the rich, and now, of course, everybody. And we're going to talk about some of those addictive qualities, why everybody's so hooked on sugar.
All right, so I guess the industrialization part, that revolution we're talking about, really was the birth of what we know now as the multi-billion-dollar sugar industry, right?
It is, and that industry certainly just gets bigger and bigger and bigger because of, some of the things that we're talking about today, and the marketing of sugar products, especially to children, both young and the big kids who still love to eat their sugary cereals and things, which we're going to talk about.
But that's in the news a lot. Sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah.
Where marketing is geared specifically to children, even with products being offered low on the shelves, all
Yes.
those things, right?
Oh, absolutely. And thanks for bringing that up, because it's something that I think when you're cognizant of the fact that this is happening, if you can maybe not bring the kids to the grocery store.
Really?
Well, I try not to, because it's I don't know if you've done it when your
Oh,
kids
yeah.
were younger.
Oh, my kids used to
It's
sneak
mayhem.
stuff into the
Oh,
cart
of
when
course
I'm not
they
looking.
do. And then I say you have to trade it up. So if we're taking this out, right?
Yeah.
If to get that, and oh my goodness, so I just don't bring them anymore because it's too stressful. And you end up buying, how many more times the things that you don't want to be buying, but more importantly, all of the junk stuff that they can become addicted to. So
True.
that's one of my little tips is don't bring your kids to the grocery store. But did you know that there's over 100 different names for sugar?
Really? Oh, that's amazing.
And here is just a few of them. And some of these were even shocking to me, because you think, and this is why packaged food, I have an issue with any packaged food, because it can be hidden in so many of these places. So let's take a look at this list, and we'll go through some of these names. And these are the things to actually look for when you're buying something and you're not sure if it's healthy or not, and you're looking, as people are decreasing their carbs and they're trying to cut the sugar out of their diets, it could be hidden in something that you wouldn't necessarily know. So things like barley malt.
That sounds like beer to me. Doesn't that have
Barley
barley?
malt. This
Malt?
one is, in a lot of breakfast cereals.
Oh, really?
So the prepackaged yes. So that's one to look for. Certainly cane sugar, we know, is cane sugar. Sounds healthy though, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It doesn't sound like refined sugar, but it is sugar. Caramel was another one. That was a shocking one for me. It was caramel. And coconut sugar, we would think, it's healthier because it's from coconuts, but it's still going to have that same glycemic response with your
Wow.
insulin. So maybe not the best. Dextrin.
Okay, what?
I didn't know this one either. High fructose corn syrup is one of the most commonly ones that's, not referred to in a happy, positive way for anybody who studies nutrition or, natural medicine. Isomalt Nectars.
See, I would never have picked that out.
Exactly, and you wouldn't think that would be a healthy sugar sweetener. Another one, malted barley, so the opposite of barley malt we see, and very tricky. Maltodextrin, tapioca dextrin, treacle. I don't even know how to pronounce that one. Treacle, wheat dextrin. Turbinado sugar. I mean, these are all different names for sugar, and there's over 100 of them. So can you imagine, when you're trying to stay away from sugar, if you don't know what these are and you're looking for sugar and it doesn't say sugar, that of course it's snuck in there, and then you wonder why maybe you have a sugar addiction or you can't lose weight, and you have this addiction to foods that are seemingly not sugar, but it is in fact sugar.
So we tried to decipher what we're reading with labels. A lot of us
Yes.
are label readers, and I guess we should be.
Yeah.
But unless we're educated with this list, for example, we don't really know what we're looking at, right?
Exactly, and that's my whole point. That's why we're talking about this today, because I think it's part of educating our viewers about being healthier, and ways to get there is certainly opening our eyes and being more conscious of the decisions that we're making, but also doing it in a more natural way. And that's definitely what we're talking about. And a lot of these addictive foods, such as candy, certainly for the kids, and all the sweets that they love, the processed foods, baked goods, absolutely, all have sugar, absolutely, but there's some less obvious
Oh, really? Okay.
places where we find sugar. So I know a lot of you may know this one, the granola bars, which are seemingly healthy, have a lot of added sugar. Ketchup is a big one.
Wow.
So, people joke about the North American diet with, the food groups. If you get your vegetables from your ketchup, you're getting
Tomatoes.
sugar. You're getting a load of sugar. So that's another one to really watch out for the kids as well.
Yeah.
Yogurt is another one that's notorious for, having a lot of sugar as
And
well.
yet you think it's healthy. It's yogurt after all. It's granola after all.
Right.
But if you
No.
really read what's going on, you may find out the opposite, right?
Exactly, and that's why you always want to, in your nutrition facts, you always want to read the grams of sugar, and that's going to give you, the amount of grams that are actually in there.
Wow.
Even dried fruit.
Really?
So we're
Okay, yeah.
talking about putting some dried fruit, some granola in a yogurt. You could be dousing yourself with like a huge amount of sugar and you wouldn't even know it. And you think that you're being healthy, and that's why you're not losing the weight. So as an example, flavored drinks.
Oh,
so
sure.
that one is notorious. We did a great, and we're going to be talking about our great, electrolyte drink that we made on our own without the sugar, which is fantastic. So that's coming up. So stay tuned for that. Juices. So this is the big one. Comparisons have been made. So a classic can of one of those most popular sodas or pops, depending on what you call it, where you live, has about 9 teaspoons of sugar. And you would think, oh, I'm going to have a juice box or give the juice box to my kids. Well, a juice box can have about 5 teaspoons of sugar and 20 grams of sugar.
That blows me away.
And that is something that, a lot of people I know are going to have an aha moment when they hear that, because it's ridiculous.
It is ridiculous. Now, I have 2 kids that are older now, but when they were younger, I can't imagine a juice box. First, here you are, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 teaspoons of sugar. I would never do that.
Of
right?
course, you wouldn't.
And yet, when you're handing them the juice box, it's almost the same in a way.
Exactly. And let's talk about, so the same with cereal. So let's say you make some nice oatmeal for your kids. Well, in the prepackaged breakfast cereals, they shouldn't really, in terms of what experts agree, they shouldn't pass 2 teaspoons. Like, let's be honest, if you're going to put some sugar on your brown sugar on your oatmeal, it's not going to be more than 2 teaspoons. But the average cereal serving has about 5 teaspoons of sugar, which is about 20 grams
per serving
of sugar per bowl. And this is crazy. And so a really interesting study was actually done on sugary drinks.
Okay.
And so what they did in the workplace was that if we take a look at this study, you can see that what they did was they banned the sugar sweetened beverages. And what they did was they helped to motivationally speak to the employees in the workplace where the sugary drinks were banned from. And then they checked them weeks later to see how their health was doing. And they actually found that there was a significant decrease in their waist circumference. So they lost weight, which they were happy about. And that was all just from switching up the drink. And that just goes to show you that when you take it away, and without changing the other parameters with diet and exercise and everything else, and a little bit of motivational speaking to these people to come off the sugar in the sugary drinks, that really had a significant effect on their overall health and certainly their waistline. So fantastic to be able to know this, and that's hopefully the tips that you're learning today is something that you'll be able to implement into your own life and for your kids as well.
We're glad to have you with us on the Dr. Janine Show. You're getting natural answers from questions that we all have from a naturopathic doctor. And we remind you that you can like, subscribe, and make sure you click that bell, by the way, so you get future notifications of the shows that are coming. And share the video, too. Share it with somebody, share it with family and friends, in case you're looking for something really interesting and educational to watch. You just might learn something. I know I learn something every week here on the Dr. Janine Show. And you can also follow Dr. Janine on Instagram, because you'll see a lot of recipes and some other things there too, at Dr. Janine. That's on all social media, at DoctorJanine.